Der erste Spurwurf ist unterwegs. Bevor Bobsleigh ist in Winterberg.
hier, der Startbogen ist gefüllt, ist die Stimmung gut oben am Start?
In 5 Minuten dann der Liechtensteiner Martinkanz mit Lorenz Linger auf der Bremse. Zur Einstimmung auf das zweite Wochenende.
A busy Winterberg in Germany, the Hochsauerland, and ready for the 4th World Cup race of the IBSF two-man season. Well, first race of the new year at the venue for last year's World Championships, and 27 sled entry with some new and returning drivers making their first races of the season. So what awaits them? Well, 1,300 plus meters of some of the oldest track in the business. The second artificially refrigerated track opened in Germany after Koenigsee in Bavaria. This track opened in 1971 in the shadows of a natural track in the Hochsauerland. Little zero curve before we get onto the main track proper from the brand new start building. Turn 1, little left-hand dink, and then turn 2, up, 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 3 pressure omega. Very gentle, very flat here, climbing out of 3, uphill over the little lip at turn 4, then dropping down 3 stories in corner 5. Here the Windrush accelerate through 6. And then into the Kreisel, turn 7, 2 pressure Kreisel, 270 degree. Exit here is important, 8 and into 9. big left-hander. This sets you up for the little dink that is turn 10 there and into 11. And from 11, this is the key to the bottom part of the track. Through the labyrinth, 12 and 13, fast crossover, and then into 14, uphill, 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 roll off for glory with the victory roll off the final part of curve 14, and then through the finish straight into the braking area. Well, it's a very busy day today at the track after a snowy day yesterday for Skeleton. Of course, Friday was a working day for a lot of people after Christmas New Year break, but it's a cool day, no snow in the air, and lots to see here today. So always loads of fans here at the Weltens Arena in Winterberg. Well, they're not all German either, colloquially known as the Dutch Alps. There'll be lots of Dutch support, lots of support from Belgium and the Low Countries as well. It's a very easy track to get to from wherever you start off in Europe, so I'm sure a lot of these athletes will find local faces and friends watching the action. Johannes Lochner there, and there's Marcus Treichel. What a great start to the season he's had. Comfortably his very best, and as good a start, I think, perhaps as Benny Meyer might have had. And delighted that Greg Jones is back in harness as well, having started his driving career back pushing sleds. And the big news from the Swiss team is that Mickey Vogt is back. Jakob Mandelbauer there, one of the Austrian young sliders. So Mickey Vogt, who had a terrible accident in Altenburg in training last season, making his return as a driver in the World Cup, still recovering from that injury. And our 27-strong list, fastest 20 go through, starting with Liechtenstein's Martin Krantz, nations big and small represented here, both in geographic terms and in sliding terms. And welcome back, yet again, the veteran Drazen Cilic from Croatia. Race 4 of the IBSF two-man Bobsleigh World Cup gets underway here in Winterberg with Liechtenstein's Martin Krantz and Lorenz Lenher. These two in their 5th World Cup race. They've been together right from the start. Krantz just 22, Lorenz Lenher 26 years old, his brakeman. 5:55 getaway. They finished in 25th place in the World Championships in February 2024. 17th place in the World Cup the year before that, and their World Cup best ever result, a 16th place finish in Altenburg in February of last year, towards the end of last season. They're going to give us an idea of how the track is running. A little bit of an indicator might be, perhaps, the fact that 5 of the last 5 sleds in the women's monobob race earlier were all inside the track record set in the World Championships in February last year, and eventually reclaimed by Lisa Buchwitz with gold. Well, the track record here, 54.39. That's a second away, but that means that we could be in track record territory again. And you know who's going to be looking for that. Correct, Francesco Friedrich and Alexander Schuller, who currently hold the record. Well, Martin Krantz got his foot hooked up there, trying to get into the sled. Just about dropped in as the drive lands run out. Down here in corner 11, brakeman Lorenz Lenher tucked right down into the belly of the sled. Excellent aerodynamic pose. Well, not a bad run from the youngster from Liechtenstein. Next up, another youngster, 26 now, Romania's Mihai Tentea, with Georg Jordaș, the 21-year-old behind him. Georg in his 5th two-man World Cup, 34th World Cup start in two-man alone for Mihai Tentea. Crashed in race 1 in Sigulda. Best here, 9th place finish in 2021. 13th in the World Championships in February last year. And his brakeman starting the 10th two-man race of his entire career. 5:30 the getaway, so 2,500s up on the team from Liechtenstein. And he's already nearly doubled that, Mihai Tentea. Decent starter, very decent driver, really got good hands. Half a second up. Better speed by a whisker. In fact, no better at all than Martin Krantz, actually. 98.0, Martin Krantz 98.27. So Krantz a little quicker below the Kreisel. Let's see if Tentea can build that advantage. Holds it at half a second, not as quick. Final corner, sees him 52 hundredths up, 54.81. So 42 hundredths away from the track record with our second sled. Yeah, records are going, aren't they? It's nearly 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The temperature will drop, so the track shouldn't get frosty. A little bit of sun on it always helps the runners just go over the surface even faster. Not direct, but just that little bit of warmer than freezing air can be a benefit. Clear, crisp days usually mean hard, fast ice. Mihai Tentea, your new leader. Next up from Italy, Mattia Variola and Fabio Batti. Mattia in his 30th World Cup as a driver, +9 as a brakeman. The 29-year-old and his 29-year-old brakeman in his 8th two-man World Cup. Fabio made his debut in La Plagne December 2023. He's also done 11 four-man races with Mattia. 16th, 15th, 16th so far this season, Variola. But their best here, a top 12 finish. Oh, and a horrible run down into the zero kink. I tell you what, about Fabio Batti's hips felt that. He gets battered by the frame rail alongside him. No comfy seats, no seat belts, no padding on the athletes. This is about speed, not comfort. Well, from 200s ahead of Mihai Tentea to 2200s back by the Kreisel. Lower speed than either of our two sleds so far. Not the start to 2025 that Mattia Variola wanted. You would have to say after the first 60 metres, here can only get better from here on in. Can only have got much worse if you actually rolled it. I don't know if it's possible to roll into zero, but just for a moment it looked like it might have been. 3900s back, 55.20. Might be in trouble making the second heat. Should still be in there, but only 1300s ahead of Martin Krantz. Look at this. Bang. I mean, that is as brutal a zero curve as I can remember seeing in nearly a quarter of a century of watching this stuff. Open to suggestions of one that looked less comfortable, but I don't know. Okay, so next up, Great Britain's Brad Hall, 57th two-man World Cup race, 4th in the World Championships, bronze medalist on this track before now. That was just the last World Cup race. 5:21 is a strong getaway. 5:05 is the start record, though. $1,500s ahead of Mihai Tentea. It's going to need to be a lot more than that ahead of Mihai further down if he wants to challenge for medals. First few sleds get the very best of the ice conditions. Then we get, after the first three, we get the top 10 seeds. Good speed, about a kilometre an hour up on the faster rivals. 2400s up, 136.1. How close are we going to get to track record territory in this first heat? 54.56 compared to 54.39 track record. So 1700ths away. Big T, Taylor Lawrence on the back handles. 28-year-old in his 13th two-man World Cup. And Taylor had 4 medals in his first 4 two-man World Cup races with Brad. Get a little nudged away there from 4 into 5. A little late exit off the Kreisel. We've seen a lot of that in the monobob race. It's okay if you come straight. Not great if you get a skid on like that.
So. First one of the new year.
It's all right, you can speak English to us. Okay, now Cedric Follador with Luca Rolli behind him. Luca is 27, birthday in a couple of weeks as they leave St. Moritz to head to Innsbruck. Cedric Follador, 30 years old, 14th two-man World Cup start as a driver. 9th, 7th and 8th this season. He's had a good start, not out the top 10 yet. 5:34, he's risen to the challenge of being the #1 driver in Switzerland in the absence of Mickey Vogt. 2/10 back on Brad Hall, 1300s behind at the start alone. So Brad Hall and Taylor Lawrence really honing up at the start. Second best speed, Hall was quicker. Hall quicker all the way down until the final speed trap, where Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein had the advantage. The Swiss with their own Citius sled programme. Across the line, and a 54.89 in third place. The boys in the leaders' box there, the other members of the four-man crew, not looking thrilled with that, not quite sure how to read it. He's behind Mihai Tentea by 800s. That's going to be a good second heat battle, isn't it? Cedric coming relatively straight here, just getting a little nudge away. That happens so often, 5 into 6. And then that leaves you in trouble for the Kreisel. Just below, 8 into 9. Just getting a big steer in on 9. So Cedric Follador, third of our 5 sleds. It's Brad Hall who leads early in this 4th World Cup of two-man bobsleigh. Next up, Jakobskalender with Mats Miknes, not celebrating his birthday on Sunday by racing on Saturday in the two-man. Arnis Bebris is in for his 8th two-man World Cup start, his 25th career two-man race. Not a bad getaway, 5:28, and a good run through the zero curve. When they built the brand new start area and the underground changing rooms and everything else, the offices above, it was in a slightly different position relative to the older track. And so there's a little kink between the start and the run down to turn 1. But because they didn't want to renumber all the corners, it became the zero curve. Out of the Kreisel. Nice looking run so far, limiting the damage. Only 2900s behind Brad Hall at the moment. Battling with Cedric Follador of Switzerland. Canada just 22 in his 17th World Cup drive. Across the line, 3800s back in 4th. '14th in the previous World Cup here, and crashed out of the World Championships. So the good news for Jakobskalender is that he has put that little bugbear to rest. Nice, clean, drama-free run in the first outing since the two-man Worlds, in the two-man at least, here in Winterberg. Just a little late. Not too much of a worry. I'm sure he felt he had that. There he is. He's got a Christmas New Year haircut as well. That's not even a 1, is it? That's a 0. Patrick Baumgartner of Italy. What a start to the season the 2012 Youth Olympic champion has had. Finally fulfilling that promise. 6th, 8th and 7th in Altenburg, and then the pair of Sigulda races. Rob Messier has been in the sled throughout all of last season and this. 18th two-man World Cup start for Robert Messier in the back. And another good one, 5:28, and that is all part of it. Having that starting speed allows him to really use his driving skills. And it's always been the case that Baumgartner's had the driving skill, but has never really been able to start around the front runners. If you bring a V6 to a V8 race, you're always going to be a little behind. Best speed so far, Closing down Brad Hall, or is he? 700s behind at the start, was 1200s. Still second. 1500s back, he's not closing the margin, and the speed has gone away below the Kreisel. Across the line, second place, 2100s back though. 400s ahead of Mihai Tentea. And 1200s ahead of Cedric Follador. Now 30, Patrick Baumgartner, Youth Olympic champion, and he will be heading to his home Winter Games in a little over 12 months. How quickly that has come. Beijing seems only a year ago. Nice looking drive, as ever, from Baumgartner. And those improvements in the start area all helping. Manny Mahata there, helping with the coaching. And here comes the GOAT, Francesco Friedrich. 4 two-man wins on this track. Surprisingly low, considering it's a German track. 103rd two-man World Cup start. And with Alexander Schuller making his 27th World Cup start. Schuller with 25 medals from the previous 26 outings. 6th position with France is the only one that they have shared together off the podium. He is an astonishing competitor, and you know he is chasing the record. 5:15 at the start, only a 10th off the start record. They'll be chasing that as well. Nice looking lines from Friedrich, 99 kilometers an hour. He's going to be fastest at the bottom. How close is he to the track record? 54.39 is the record. This could be close. It is close. It's not close. He's crushed it. 54.05. Now that's just ridiculous. Not 300s, 34 hundredths of a second, a third of a second faster. And it's not even a sunny day. He's unbelievable, isn't he? He just is absolutely astonishing. And still he'll go back knowing there is stuff that he needs to clear up. Well, there you go. Okay, that has lowered the bar, or raised it, whichever you prefer, for everybody else. Frank Del Duca next up, 5th in the World Championships here. What a weekend that was for Frankie, with Manio Mitchell back behind him. Last two-man race was Lake Placid back in March for Manio Mitchell. This is his 5th two-man World Cup. Good start, 5:25, right in there swinging. These MUSA sleds, drivers are really liking them. 2300s back, 3rd fastest at the start. And he's right in there swinging with Brad Hall for 2nd place. Don't forget, we have still got Hansi Lochner to come and Adam Amor for Germany on a German track, as well as a whole host of other potential contenders. Still in 3rd. Really neat and tidy looking run from Frank Del Duca so far. A little late flop, only the 6th best speed at the bottom. Will he be 3rd or 4th? Sid is 3rd, a 10th behind Brad Hall. Brian Scheimer there, watching the action from the coach's box. Coach Tuffy Latour down there will be helping with the sleds. And they'll be happy with that start. 5:25, good getaway. Again, little late height up by the woodwork, but not quite on it. But the runner shoe digging in. A little rocking and rolling down in the fast transitions.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Now then, for Switzerland, Timo Röhner. We saw Deborah Annan with her first World Cup silver medal. Dad Martin here watching. Not sure if Timo Röhner's Dad Marcel is watching the action here or not, but another scion of a very famous Swiss sliding family. Greg Jones went away over the Christmas New Year break to start learning to drive, back behind for his 12th two-man World Cup start. 5:27, another strong start from Röhner and Greg Jones, giving him that speed at the start. Both of them in their 12th World Cup in a two-man, not all together, obviously. 2900s back. Fourth best start, he slipped a little early on. Cedric Follador, his teammate, in 6th place, so he's up on Follador at the Kreisel. Times ticking away on the right-hand side. You can see that little red box on the extreme right of your screen. That's his current position on the split times. So top 5 run for Timo Röhner. 10th in Altenburg, 9th and 11th in Sigulda, a little late off 13, and who hasn't been? And across the line, 4th fastest run, 54.75. 200s ahead of Italy's Patrick Baumgartner, and just 900s behind Frank Del Duca, who is in 3rd. Good opening foray to the weekend for Timo Röhner. A little tap, everybody's taking that down into 9, and here out of 11. 11-12 crossover, very fast, such a short, I mean about 3 sled lengths. Hard to get through there clean. All right, good start for the Swiss. Timo Röhner in 4th, Cedric Follador in 7th. Next up for China, Li Chunjian. And behind him, the 18-year-old Shi Yaolong. 3rd two-man World Cup for the brakeman. Is also his 3rd ever bobsleigh race. Little skidding around. Lee giving away some of that starting speed. Best start to the season in the World Cup that he's enjoyed though so far. An 8th in Altenburg, and then 6th in race 1 in Sigulda, 9th in race 2. Finished in 15th in the World Championships here in the two-man, 14th in the previous season's World Cup, but he has been in top 10 form all year long, and he is ahead of Martin Kranz of Liechtenstein at the moment. Can he catch Mattia Variola? He should be ahead of him. Can he get to Jekubs Kalender of Latvia and finish 8th at the line? Not quite. 55.13, and those early skids, so crucial. They take that precious speed out of the sled. And you wipe off 2 or 3 kilometers an hour when you've only got 30 on board. It has a much bigger effect for the rest of the run. Dennis Minnings down there in the red and white jacket, their driving coach. Steered hard on 0, hit the wall, got that big sideways skid. Takes away so much of your starting velocity. Again, this crossover, same as everybody else, getting bumped and bounced around. When they designed this track, sleds looked a lot different and went very much slower. Next up, and talk about good starts to the season, Marcus Treichel, 4th in the two-man in Altenburg, bronze in race 1 in Sigulda, his first ever World Cup medal, and then 6th place in race 2. 5:19 getaway. Oh! And a big skid, lots of people getting hit by that little hammer. The expansion joint sticks out from the wall. Well, really good, strong start, 5:25, 3rd quickest, but all of that skidding of speed away has dropped them down to 9th place on the splits. Now starting to find it back. not working, is it? Not going quite as well as they'd hoped. 6th place currently on the splits, but only the 10th best speed. 9th best speed in the final corner. And across the line with Sasha Stepan pulling on the brakes. 54.82. Well, 7th place at the finish line. Sasha Stepan, the brakeman, 26, has his birthday next week in St. Moritz. Not a bad place to have a birthday, doing what you love to do. He's such a powerhouse as well, and that's part of what's really helped Marcus Treichel accelerate his performances, is having that big starting crew that used to push Benny Meyer. Benny will be back in a bobsled, by the way, in 2 weeks in Innsbruck. Not competing, but he'll be driving the Allianz IBSF safety sled. More about that closer to the time. As we get to Johannes Lochner now with Joshua Tasche behind him. The 29-year-old brakeman, only his 3rd two-man World Cup, his 4th two-man race in all. He's had medals in all of them. 5:20, and he gets a little bit of the zero curve as well. Not too bad. 3rd fastest start, behind Marcus Treichel and Francesco Friedrich. I will say that again. Marcus Treichel and Sasha Stepan, 2nd fastest start. That's a big part of the equation, especially on this track. 2nd fastest at the Kreisel. Hansi from the 3rd fastest start up to 2nd. Now, he's not going to have to break the old track record. He's going to have to absolutely crush it to try and get into the lead ahead of Francesco Friedrich. That's not happening. The gap continues to open. He may be inside of 54.39. He is. He's inside the old track record. But there's Friedrich watching. He's already back at the top, watching on the coach's monitor to see what Hansi has done. Why is he doing that? Not so much because he's worried about what Hansi is doing, but because he wants to see what the sled looks like on the ice. He wants to judge if the ice is changing, and if it is, how it's changing. Joshua Tasche getting a bit hung up getting into the sled there. And Hansi, big steer in the zero curve, way too much of that and a bit late getting on. As ever, the big smile on his face. World Championship bronze medalist here in the Worlds. Boris Vahr was in 7th position with Antoine Rieu behind him. Antoine raced in the Worlds and then in Lake Placid. Hasn't been in the two-man sled since. This is his 7th two-man World Cup start for Boris, his 9th as a driver. After racking up 24 World Cup race starts as a brakeman for Rudy Rinaldi. 5:34, not the greatest of starts. 12th best start. What we've seen this season and last, since he came into the World Cup as a driver, is that Boris Vahr, for a big, fast brakeman, has become a very good, smooth driver. Look at the lines. You don't see skids. He really knows what's going on. 12th best speed. He slipped from the 12th fastest start down to 13th on the split times, but the speed is coming back. 8th fastest. Down at the bottom. Can he squeeze himself up into the top 10? 8th fastest at the line, 12th place, 55.17. So Big Boris, 1st World Cup here driving. Plenty, not seeing where he was going, obviously, as a brakeman. A slightly better looking zero curve, but a worse result as the back bunk of the sled got tapped away by the wall into a big skid. Nice line down at the bottom and holding the sled. Nice and constant through 11. Not happy with the run, though, I would say, judging from the body language. Probably still regretting 0. For Korea, Kim Jin-soo, 23rd World Cup race, and Kim Hyung-kyun behind him, the brakeman in his 6th two-man World Cup. His last race, they crashed in Sigulda race 1. Kim Jin-soo did not do race 2, I beg your pardon, did do race 2 in Sigulda, finished in 10th place. Got back on the horse that threw him. Has been a World Cup medalist, bronze medal in Altenburg last season. And his 2 races that he's finished this year, 5th in Altenburg, 10th in Sigulda, and you can understand why he might have been a little conservative in Sigulda. But off the 12th best start, this is looking like a very decent run. Rocking and rolling down at the bottom. Speed isn't fantastic, but across the line in 6th position, 54.76. Good start from Kim Jin-soo. Again down in 11. Nice smooth line, good aerodynamic form. The brakeman buried in the back of the sled. This big, strong brakeman folded in half like a piece of origami. Now then, Adam Amour coming up next after our first 15 sleds, with Benedikt Hertel back behind him. Amour, double winner in the spring of 24 in Sigulda, crashed both runs on race 1 and again in the first heat of race 2. Needs to get his confidence back. It's a very weird weekend for Adam Amour. Well, he knows the track well enough. He's a good driver. Finished in the silver medal position here. Again, he won both races in Sigulda, the previous World Cup, and before Christmas, wrecked it 3 runs in a row. 3rd best speed, 2nd fastest run. This is ahead of Johannes Lochner. This is how they were in the World Championships. Friedrich Amour Lochner. Amour then had brother Issam behind him. Today it's Benedikt Hertel, 2nd best speed. Not going to overhaul Hansi Lochner, but he takes 3rd place. There's Issam on the right-hand side. Big brother watching little brother. And a little bit like the crashes in the World Championships in Samoritz, you have to go somewhere special to just delete it from your mind, even though it is uppermost in your mind, not for your own safety as much as for that of your crewmen. And Amour did exactly that in Samoritz. He's done exactly that here. He did the same in Sigulda. Went again in the 2nd heat on day 1, went again on day 2. There's Benedikt Hertel on the left. Adam looking a little bit haunted still, though. Andre Torrea with Rares Dinker behind him, the brakeman in his 4th two-man World Cup. Also has done half a dozen Europa Cup races as a driver in the last couple of seasons. And teaming up with Andre Torrea. Torrea won Europe Cup race here, didn't do the World Championships. He's done 16 two-man races in his young career, just 26 years old, 4th two-man World Cup start for the Romanian. 5:38 getaway. '16th at the moment. Torreira, it is going to be all about making the second heat. Mattia Variola of Italy is in 15th place, Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein in 16th. And Torreira just losing a little bit more time. It's not the worst run you're going to see down here. This definitely doesn't look like beginner territory. Oh, Brakeman popped up a little early then. .55.62, 17th place at the moment. Well, not sure where that is going to end up. Might be enough to make the second heat. Problem is we've got another 10 sleds to come and only 3 places left in the race. I'm afraid it might not. Nevertheless, really good to see 3 Romanian sleds in the World Cup, because there's another one still to come. From the Czech Republic first, though, Matej Behunek. Michal Dobesh behind him in his 8th two-man World Cup start. A 10th for the driver. Oh, and again, the zero curve curse, the big, big slide. Takes all that hard-earned speed out of the sled. 14th fastest push, 16th on the splits at the moment. And without enough speed on board to be able to fight. 17th best speed at the Kreisel. It's only our 18th sled, just 1 slower. Well, he's going to be hanging around with Liechtenstein's Martin Krantz and with Andrei Torreira of Romania at the tail of the field. 18th place, he is last. Again, the zero curve, on it late and high, and then gets flung into the wall, and the back bunk steps out, gets cannoned, pinballing his way down the straight. Out of 11 into 12, late off 11. I think the track is definitely running faster than it was in training. Seemed to be the case this morning in the women's monobob. Seems to be the case here as well. And the less experienced sliders, and Matej Behunek is one of those, not able quite to recover. Adam Baird with former rugby player and parachutist, parachute regiment member Oliver Butterworth, making his World Cup debut, the brakeman. Ollie Butterworth, 26 years old, with 34-year-old Adam Baird. 5th two-man World Cup for Adam. 5:28 start. 18th in Altenburg, 10th in race 1, his first top 10 result in a two-man World Cup race in Sigulda, then went off for a Europe Cup race here to get a little bit of track knowledge. Didn't compete in the World Championships here. Nice looking run from Adam Baird of Great Britain. And that first race in Sigulda, for the first time in a long while, there were 2 British sleds in the top 10 of a World Cup race. Not sure how long, but a very long while, I think. 13th at the line, 14th, 55.15, not a bad looking run. And his 5th two-man World Cup race. Huge rugby player, Ollie Butterworth. Competing with Lamin Dean for a season, 2019 to 2020 with British Bobsled, then was signed by the York Knights to play rugby league and came back to Bobsleigh last season, or last year, 2024. So his first World Cup start. I mean, look at the width of those shoulders. Is it any surprise that he was a rugby league player? So next up is the second of our Chinese sleds, Sun Kai-chi. Sun, 28, made his debut in Calgary back in February 2019 and was an occasional performer until the last couple of seasons. This is now his 18th two-man World Cup and a 10th for his brakeman Chen Heng, who gets in, gets down neatly. 5:25, that's a decent start, isn't it? 300s quicker than the Brits who just preceded them. World Cup best for Sun Kai-chi, an 11th place finish in Beijing in November 2023. But 7th at the start, 7th on the splits, holding his pace well early on. If the speed is to be believed, this could be a top 6 run at the bottom. Out to 10th on the splits. Currently 10th, Marcus Treichel, off the 3rd fastest start, and 12th at the line, 54.92 for Sun. So 8700s back, and the top 10, 7700s back. That was neat and tidy. Maybe not quite as fast as he would have liked. Sun was here in the World Championships in the two-man, finished 21st. Pretty decent coordinated start. See Chen Heng really digging in at the back there. The brakeman's art gets so overlooked. It's absolutely critical. Chen on the left, Sun on the right. And next up, Jakob Mandelbauer for Austria and Lukas Zek making his debut. The 24-year-old has had 3 Europe Cup races and the Junior Worlds. This is the first time, though, that he has been with Jakob Mandelbauer in a race. So he's slid with 2 of Austria's development drivers, now being pulled into Austria's 2nd World Cup team. 5:31, 2nd best start, beg your pardon, 16th best start. There's going to be a massive logjam, as ever, from about 6th position, Timo Rona, all the way down to about 16th place. Going to have 10 sleds covered by way less than half a second at this rate. Mandelbauer ahead of Craig Baird, up to 14th place, but not much speed at the bottom. 15th at the line, 14th at the line, 55.06. 16th start, 14th finish, good driving. So the rookie makes his debut. Jakob Mandelbauer, vastly more experienced. This is his 5th two-man World Cup start. But always good to see new blood coming in the engine room. Lukas Zek on the back of the sled. 11-12. Not bad. Much less bumping there. Well done, buddy. It's a good run from Jakob Mandelbauer. He's 14th. Marcus Treichel is 10th. And now our 3rd Romanian sled. 2nd World Cup race for Andrei Nica, who is 23 today. Happy birthday. Behind him, Mihai Kalanseya, a 22-year-old in only his 2nd World Cup start as well. He's come up through the ranks with Andrei Nica. So these two have been teamed up for a little while. And Nica, the Youth Olympic gold medalist 2020. In the women's monobob race earlier, we had the 2024, the 2020 and the 2016 Youth Olympic champions all competing. Rattling a little, 21st at the start. Needs to go a bit if he's going to make the race. Matej Behenek already eliminated by Jakob Mandelbauer, and not quite enough to make it in. 56.34. Was 23rd in Altenburg on his World Cup debut. Getting closer to making that cut. They're loving life, aren't they? The boys and the fans. And this is the glamour, by the way, of elite sport in the winter. Humping your own sleds around. Little late flop, gives him a skid, and then hard on to 6. And again here, late out of 11, late out of 9 rather. Big slap on the wall. Again, the hips of the brakeman will feel that one. So no second heat for the birthday boy. What about Drazen Cilic, the man who doesn't know anything about retirement? 39 years of age, 2018 Olympian, his 16th two-man World Cup race since his debut in Innsbruck in January 2013. 11 seasons ago. Less 6 days. 5:54 the getaway. His brakeman, Alexander, 38, in his 8th two-man World Cup, made his debut in Koenigsee in January 2019. His last race was Koenigsee January 2020. Drazen has this very persuasive manner about him, bringing brakemen back in long after they think they've retired. 22nd at the start. Not sure he's got enough speed on board to make it back in for a second heat. And the appeal of Milan Cortina is definitely there. Arjen Glas of the Netherlands is helping out with the coaching for Drazen Cilic. Well, the biggest highlight of his sliding career was competing in the Olympic Games for Croatia in 2018 in Pyeongchang. He was overjoyed with that, and he'll be looking to get into the World Championships this year to qualify for the Worlds in Lake Placid, and then hopefully to qualify himself for a second Winter Olympic Games in Milan Cortina. And then maybe he might start mentoring some younger sliders, or finding some younger sliders, or buying to, I don't know. Croatia needs to continue the programme. And what a big story today. Welcome back, Mickey Vogt of Switzerland. He's got Andy Haas behind him. 27-year-old Mickey in his 48th two-man World Cup start, and perhaps the most emotional of all for him. After that big crash where Sandro Mikkel, his brakeman, was so badly injured in Altenburg. Mickey was injured as well, has only still continuing to recover. I gather from Chris Woolley that Sandro Mikkel will be with the boys in St. Moritz next week. '11th place. He's such a silky smooth driver. 9th best speed. It's a nice looking run from Mickey Vogt of Switzerland. Is this going to be a top 10 run on his return? It is, isn't it? At the line, he is 9th, 54.81. And a big sigh of relief all round, I think. Little applause from coach Peter Ramseidel. 16th at the start, 9th at the bottom. Mickey Vogt not physically fit, but mentally he is all there. Welcome back, Mickey. I'm sure Andy Haas gave everything he possibly could there to help with the start in his 18th two-man World Cup. And Mickey Vogt turned 27, Andy Haas turned 28, either side of Christmas. Welcome back. Next up, World Cup debut for Dave Wesseling. Now, last time we saw him, it was in the World Championships here, where he finished in 19th place. He's had 16 two-man races in Europe Cup, plus the Worlds. And Janko Francic behind him. Big Janko, who made his debut in Koenigsegg back in January 2018, whose last race was November 2021 in Innsbruck, is back on the sled. His younger brother Jelen slid in the two-man Worlds with Dave. 5:27 getaway. And a very skinny run from 0 down to 1, but 10th fastest start. Janko is a real beast. It's a big boost to get him back in harness on the back of this sled for Dave Wesseling. 10th fastest start. Can he make the cut? 19th in the Worlds. He got all 4 heats in. Little slipping and sliding. Back of the sled moving around a little more perhaps than he can happily handle. He's slipping out of the top 20 right at the end of the run. Not enough speed, not enough. 55.48. Just outside the top 20. So 20th place, Liechtenstein's Martin Krantz at the moment. Dave Wesseling, 21st. Mihai Turea, Andrei Turea rather, in 22nd. Matej Behunek of the Czech Republic, 23rd, ahead of Drazen Silic and Mihai Nia, Andrei Nika rather. It wasn't a bad looking run, just needs a tiny bit of tidying up. All right, so 1 and done for Dave Wesseling as we move on now to our final 2 sleds, both from Canada. First up, Taylor Austin, 10th World Cup start. He can't get in, but as a result actually has a very clean 0. He probably doesn't think so, but there's been some horrendous exit from the 0 curve, and that was not one of them. Wasn't the fastest start, 5:41, so 23rd in the getaway, but already driving himself towards the top 20. Raced in the Worlds here in February to 22nd place. World Cup best ever result for Taylor Austin, a 6th place finish in Whistler a couple of seasons back. Last time he was in a World Cup race was Lake Placid in March 24. Missed the first 3 races of this season, staying at home in North America. And at the line, oh, just out by 300s behind Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein. I thought he had it. Well, behind him, a brand new brakeman, 24-year-old Johan Eskrik Parkinson. First ever 2-man race. 2 NAC 4-man races for the brakeman in November in Whistler. And this is his first ever 2-man start. Got in, got down. May possibly have paused there to wonder what on earth his driver was doing. Looked like Taylor Austin had got his spikes caught in the steering gear somehow, then finally dropped in. Well, we've seen a lot worse exits from the Spurs than that. And finally, in this first of 2 heats, Pat Norton with Mike Evelyn behind him. Mike, who made his debut in Samoritz in January 2021 with Chris Spring. Last raced in Lake Placid in the World Cup. 9th 2-man start for the brakeman. 3rd for Pat Norton in the World Cup in 2-man. There you go. Taylor Austin's 0 to 1 was much cleaner than that, but they had a faster start, 5:33. '17th in the World Championships here in February 24. Pat Norton should be in the top 20. 19th fastest start, but he's slipping out of touch. Oh, and a little early off there. 9800's back. Is he going to beat Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein? It's Liechtenstein or Canada in the race. A late exit there. Not going to have enough speed to the line. 23rd place. He doesn't make it in. A 55.59. Is that Jesse Lumsden there? Mike Evelyn brought into the sport by Chris Spring. And teaming up here with Pat Norton. Pat 17th in the World Champs. But not finding that pace here today. Big runner check to get it squared away down to turn 1. And again, brought it down a little early. He was feeling, I think, that the sled was running on to the corners faster and coming off further than he expected from training. And the differing weather conditions catching him out. So no second heat for either of our Canadian sleds. But there is a second heat, and this may not surprise many regular viewers, for Francesco Friedrich and Alexander Schuller. They lead with a shattering track record. The only thing missing in the first heat was that they didn't break their own start record. In fact, it's Francesco Friedrich and Torsten Margus' start record, which might make breaking it even sweeter for Alex Schuller. Nice to break a record that you've set yourself, even better to break one that somebody else has set. And Friedrich leads by a colossal 2700s over Hansi Lochner, who's 4 ahead of Adam Amor, who's 2/10 ahead of Brad Hall, who's 1/10 ahead of Frank Del Duca, who is 900s ahead of Timo Rona. And that's where the massive dogfight begins. From Rona in 6th position down to what? Boris Vian? No, Mattia Variola, 19th, 6th to 19th. Those are the big margins. Martin Krantz makes it into the top 20, and the other 7 sleds won't get a second heat. That is it for the first run of our 2-man World Cup here. You can see the second get underway at 4:15 local, 3:15 GMT, 10:15 Eastern, and that is in 30 minutes from now. We'll see you then. Bye for now.